Hello, everyone. Good to have you on this podcast. I'm your host, Barrister Mrs. Esther Ileogben, and the convener of Singles, Dynamic Singles and Married Talk Show, where we do a lot of dissection on dating, relationship, marital issues, child training tips, home tips, and all other stuffs that have to do with the home. Today, I'll be talking about some topical issues that affect Christians and believers and marriage. Here is the question: should or is it advisable for believing Christians to get indulged in oral sex? For me, it is wrong. What does the Bible say? Let us look at some references in the Bible. Number one, in the book of 1 Corinthians, in the 6th chapter, verse 18, has basically admonished us, and it said, don't you know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit? By so doing, you must keep it holy. That's verse 20. Verse 20 now says, you have been bought by a price. And because you have been bought by a price, you have been redeemed via the Spirit of God. And the Spirit of God lives in your body. In other words, our God is a holy God. Everything we do with our body must signify holiness, purity, and sacredness and sanctity. Make no mistake about it. That is the reason why God Himself orchestrated marriage, for His presence to be there. The communion between that intercourse is the invitation of the Holy Spirit. So if you are doing it in a lewd way, if you are doing it in an obscene way, if you are doing it in a way that is impure, of course the Spirit of God will not be part of it. Now listen, this is what the book of 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 2 and 3 have said. Verse 2, it said we must flee from the gratification of our flesh. Everything that contradicts the Spirit and interferes with our flesh, we must flee from it. In other words, oral sex have to do more of things of the flesh that does not really glorify God. You know what is oral anal sex? Also sucking of the penis and all those stuff. They're lewd. Verse 3 talk about flee from every sexual orgies, carousing, lusts, abominable acts, and adulterous acts. So what are we talking about? All these things that involve using of sex toys, vibrators, and all those things. All of it is classified as abominable acts. Anything we are doing as Christian believers, we must be very careful. So many trends are coming up from the bottomless pit of hell, and it's being thrown open, and we are embracing it. These things do not glorify God. God is a holy God. Everything about Him, His presence, everything, you need to exude holiness, sanctity, purification, sensitizing everything that we do. He's the orchestrator of sex and holy sex in marriage. You know, that is why it is called holy matrimony. And all these lewd, absurd acts is devoid of holiness. So there are other styles you can still do that it still signifies holiness, not oral sex. This is my take on that. Coupled up with all the Bible scriptures that I've used for my backing. You can hug, you can kiss, you can do every other thing. There's so many things you can do to really have pleasure between yourself. God also created us for His pleasure. In the book of Revelation chapter 4, the 4th chapter and the 11th verse, all things are created for God's pleasure. He wants to have a clean fellowship with us. That is also stated in the book of Genesis chapter 3 verse 8, when God found out that Adam and Eve have defiled themselves. They have been separated by the sin. God wanted to come and have a good fellowship communion with them. And what happened? So please, anything we're doing as Christian believers, as couples, please let us stay in the confinement of that holiness, so that the presence of the Holy Spirit of God will always be with us, to guide us, to lead us, and to continually help us to build a very glorious, pleasurable home that will give us the pleasure and God pleasure too, and God's glory. So with this, I'd like to sign up, and I want to say shout out to all those that have been liking this podcast, that have been sharing it, and also subscribing. Please, I want you to continue doing that until I come your way next time. Always be good to yourself and to others. Ciao.